Now the latest ITV News in London with Duncan Golestani.
Tonight, the terror attack that may have been prevented. Sudesh man could have been recalled to prison for his worrying behaviour before his stabbing rampage in Streatham. An inquest today ruled he was lawfully killed by police officers.
Police had real concerns about this attacker. It's for this reason that they were in the right place at the right time to intervene and stop this becoming a murderous attack.
Also on the programme, staff shortages in bars, pubs and restaurants, how so many vacancies could mean higher wages but also price hikes. Celebrity backing for Extinction Rebellion as they plan their protests next week.
What else is going to make politicians really recalibrate, realign, revolutionise politics so that it faces the horrors of climate change?
And hoverboarding into the West End, Marty McFly's musical future. Good evening. Sudesh man's terror attack on Streatham High Road only lasted 62 seconds because he was under round-the-clock surveillance. But an inquest into his death today ruled it may have been prevented in the first place, sparing the two people he stabbed at random. He had been showing worrying behaviour in the days leading up to the attack, but the probation service decided not to recall him to prison. The coroner concluded the killing of a man by undercover officers was lawful and praised them for their bravery. Sam Holder has more.
There were signs and real fears that Sudesh Ahmed would carry out an attack. It was in Streatham. Those fears were realised. Inside the shop on the bottom right, the convicted terrorist has stolen a knife. He bursts out, followed by undercover police. He manages to stab two people before being shot dead.
It was a very frightening, very confusing couple of minutes while everybody was working out what was going on. And obviously this was just as it happened, so the police weren't saying anything to anybody. People thought that the man might have had a bomb.
The attack lasted just 62 seconds, but could it have been stopped in advance? Sudesh Ahmed had only been freed from Belmarsh prison 10 days earlier. The police had asked for him to stay behind bars, but he was automatically released as he'd served half his sentence. While in prison, he said he hoped to kill the Queen. He was considered so dangerous he was being followed around the clock by undercover police. But the jury found there may have been a missed chance to stop him. In the days leading up to the attack, he was seen buying bottles of iron brew and tin foil, items that could and would be used to make a fake suicide bomb. The prison and probation service were notified and could have recalled Sudesh Ahmed back to jail, but chose not to for fear of exposing the undercover operation. Here you can see the fake bomb in the aftermath of the attack. Terror expert Sally Leavesley says the real problem lies with the law.
He was acting under the radar with very deliberate control. That terrorist was in control the minute he was released from prison. And the question is, should people who have that level of control over life or death be allowed out of prison?
The Met Police praised the response of their undercover team.
We employed and he was monitored by a very professional and a highly skilled team. It's for this reason that they were in the right place at the right time to intervene and stop this becoming a murderous attack.
No blame was placed on the officers who dealt with the attack. The inquest heard they immediately gave chase and that Sudesh Ahmed turned around and started running towards them, knife in hand. In total, officers fired 6 shots, but at least 2 of them missed. In fact, when Sudesh Ahmed finally hit the floor, he was less than a second away from them. Today, the jury found that he had been lawfully killed. The 2 people stabbed by Sudesh Ahmed survived, but one was seriously injured and has suffered long-term physical and mental effects. Today's conclusion raises questions about whether that could have been avoided.
Sam, we have seen some changes in the law, haven't we, since the attack?
Yeah, that's right, Duncan. Remember, this came just 3 months after the Fishmongers Hall attack, which was also carried out by convicted terrorists. So both of these events led to a change in the law, an end to the automatic release of those convicted of terror offences. That was previously at the halfway point. Now it's at the three-quarter point and approved by a parole board. But there are some experts, like Sally Leavesley, who are calling for even tougher regulation, which would see convicted terrorists only released if approved by a judge.
OK, Sam, thank you very much. To Afghanistan now, and as gunshots and cries for help filled the skies over Kabul today, in contrast, families here in London waited anxiously in sometimes painful silence for news of their loved ones. Dowran and Ahmed were evacuated out of the country in the last few weeks for their safety, but now their biggest concerns is the safety of those they've left behind, as Chloe Keedy reports.
This isn't the life they imagined. Sitting on the ground in a hotel car park, these men say they are grateful for their safety, but haunted by what they left behind. Dowran arrived here from Afghanistan 12 days ago, before the Taliban had taken over Kabul. His family are still stuck there, hiding. And in a phone call today, his brother told him the situation outside is deteriorating fast.
And he say just everywhere the Taliban walking around in the street, in the roads, and they're looking for people who work in Afghan government or also with the foreign forces.
And that is Dowran. He worked as a translator for British troops in Helmand between 2010 and 2012.
I'm worried about my family. I feel not good. God is concerned for me because I'm here. My life is safe, but I'm worried about my family, my parents, like my mother, my brother.
But thousands of miles from their homes, Dowran and his fellow interpreters can only watch as the horror unfolds. How did you feel when you saw those pictures of people clinging onto planes at Kabul airport?
It really made me upset, when I saw my people that they hang themselves, on the plane, after that they've fallen down. Of course, it really made me unhappy. I'm really sad about my people, about my families, which they're
Speaking about his family is too much for Ahmed. He came here 3 weeks ago and had to leave his parents and brother and sister behind. On FaceTime today, his dad said the Taliban had come to their house and threatened to kill them.
We cannot trust Taliban. We cannot believe Taliban. They say, I think, something by mouth, but they don't put it in action. They're searching for them to find them and to kill them. We cannot trust Taliban ever.
And so they must endure an agonising wait. They have no idea how long they will be here and no idea when or if they'll see their families again. Chloe Keedy, ITV News.
For the last few months now, the sound of diners enjoying themselves in full restaurants has been music to the ears of those working in the hospitality sector. But after a combination of Brexit and COVID, the staffing crisis in the capital is now teetering on a knife edge. With many workers moving out of London, roles are going unfilled and wages are being hiked in order to keep those who are already employed. Emma Walden reports.
Running a Michelin-starred restaurant is always demanding, but for David Moore, the past 18 months have tested every part of his business. But the greatest challenge of all, a dire shortage of a key ingredient: good staff.
The main cause of the shortage, in my view, is a COVID-Brexit relationship, where the COVID thing hit and we had the lockdown, and then the kids went back to Europe, and then either they didn't want to come back, or they couldn't come back because they didn't have the papers for right to remain. With our worries about the staffing situation, we gave an 8 to 10% pay rise across the board to all our staff very recently, just to ensure that we don't get any more leavers.
It's an issue affecting eateries across the capital, with job vacancy rates of more than 20% in London, twice that of other parts of the country.
In the medium term, I think we will see business failures unless we can get sufficient staff coming through, because these businesses have been trading for 18 months with very, very low revenue levels, and therefore they are very fragile. And if they can't build up their revenues because of staff shortages, that will be terminal for many.
But whilst the difficulties it brings are undeniable, some restaurateurs are hopeful that the current staffing crisis will lead to much-needed changes in the sector.
Asma, historically, what have you seen in terms of the treatment of hospitality staff, and what would you like to see happen next?
Well, in the past, it wasn't very great because, we were very dependent on European staff and they were underpaid and undervalued. And now I think that, now that we're in this position where we can actually fill in places, I think we need to really seriously think about actually professional courses, having a college of food, actually getting people trained to be able to fill in these spaces for hospitality.
And many want to see that more valued work in the UK accessible to Europeans once again.
I think a solution is to embrace our European friends and create a young people's work visa, holiday work visa, where they can come for 2 to 3 years. I think the youth of Europe want to come to London, want to come to the UK, they want to come and perfect their English, for instance, and also just have some life experience.
And there will be pubs, bars and restaurants ready to welcome them with open arms. Emma Walden, ITV News.
Strikes planned for next week on the Underground have been suspended after progress was made during talks today. Members of the RMT union were due to walk out for 24 hours on Tuesday and Thursday in a dispute over the night tube. They say discussions will continue with the view of reaching a settlement. And the children's author and illustrator Jill Murphy, who created the beloved Worst Witch books, has died at the age of 72. Born in London, she began writing The Worst Witch while still at school, but put the book on hold to attend Chelsea and Croydon art schools. Her son Charlie described her as a life force like no other. Last night, we told you about the disruption being planned by the Extinction Rebellion groups next week. Today, the Met have been outlining how they'll deal with the environmental protesters, but they have had some celebrity backing.
They're loud, they're disruptive. They sometimes throw paint and other such things, and they block traffic. But what else is going to make politicians really recalibrate, realign, revolutionise politics so that it faces the horrors of climate change and all the damage we're doing to our planet?
Charanpreet Kaira is in central London for us now. Charanpreet, what more do we know?
Well, Duncan, I'm in Trafalgar Square, and if you think things are fairly quiet here at the moment, then just wait until Monday. Extinction Rebellion have promised to take to these streets like never before, starting right here in Trafalgar Square. Now, you might remember moments like these from protests in the past, when there was disruption across the capital, including some people gluing themselves to the floors and even climbing up onto a tube. Now, it is important to mention that Extinction Rebellion are not planning to target public transport this time around. Back in 2019, that caused public outrage, and they themselves admitted that that was a miscalculation. They have said, though, that they are focusing on the city, and although we don't know what that will look like, the Met seem to think that there could be some trouble.
It's particularly frustrating that Extinction Rebellion have chosen to do this over the bank holiday weekend, which is traditionally one of our busiest. So we know that demand across London will be high, and that will be exacerbated by the resources that we're going to have to commit to police the protests in central London.
Now, when it comes to policing the protests, the Met are promising a softer approach than in the past, so that they can avoid what we've seen over the past 3 demonstrations, where there have been more than 3,700 arrests. But some disruption could be inevitable, and I suspect that some public annoyance could be too.
Charanpreet, thank you. Still to come on the programme, we'll have the weather, plus fire up the DeLorean for the West End's newest musical, and iconic art that takes your breath away. But first, this weekend, Soul Festival returns to the BFI on the South Bank. It's the 3rd time the event has been held, celebrating black film talent on both sides of the camera. One of the many people it's helped is Nathan Bryan, star of, among other things, Benidorm.
What do you think of it so far? Well, as all-inclusive Spanish holidays go, I think this is worth the £100 transfer fee I had to pay the tiger. You are so jammy. I paid nearly 4 times that for the same holiday.
It was worth waiting for. Nathan joins me now, along with Anthony Andrews, one of the Soul Festival's co-founders. Welcome to you both. Nathan, first of all, how important has the festival been in your career over the last few years?
The festival has been so important. It was one of the first places where I could share my work in a cinema. So for a young filmmaker to be able to, see your work up on a big screen with loads of other brilliant Black filmmakers was just incredible.
And tell us what you're involved with in the coming week or so.
Yeah, so this weekend I'm doing an event called Soul to Screen, which kind of looks at where one of my first films that were ever showed there and the journey it took to get my own TV show at the moment, which I've got on Sky, called Bloods.
I know the show you're talking about. Anthony, let me come to you, one of the co-founders. Tell me, do you have to be involved in the creative industries to take part in these events, or can members of the public get involved too?
Well, that's one of the great things about Soulfest, is that we have the industry side where we are focusing on trying to help Black filmmakers, creators, writers, producers, trying to navigate their way through a very competitive and challenging industry. But we also have the other side of the festival where we screen work. We are screening a series of shorts from emerging Black filmmakers, and we're also showing one of the first screenings of the highly anticipated and much delayed, unfortunately, Candyman, which is going to be screened at the BFI South Bank this Sunday.
Have you found that the conversations around these things have changed a little bit in the last year? Are you getting the support you now need from the industry with your festival?
I think the Soul Film Festival has been supported a lot by the BFI South Bank. We've been supported by BBC Film, Sony Pictures, the National Film and TV School. So there's been a lot of support for what we do. I think there's still a long way to go. In fact, some research that the Film and TV charity did almost a year ago showed that of all the jobs that are in the film and TV sector, only 2 to 4% of them are populated by people of colour. So when you hear conversations like that and you hear reports like that, there is still so much work to be done. We not only need people of colour in front of the camera, but we need people of colour behind the camera commissioning work and getting to decide what stories get told.
I know the creativity of all of this is so important, but let's be honest, networking is really important as well as the kind of industry that you're in. So is there a lot of that goes on that can help young emerging talents?
I can just jump in and say Soul do some of the best networking events I have ever been to. They usually have really good music on and everyone's having a great time. So I've definitely have had some great sessions there.
You sound like a good networker. And Anthony, from your point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. I just second what Nathan said. I mean, we pride ourselves on creating networking opportunities for Black filmmakers to meet each other from all over the UK, to meet each other, to connect and to collaborate with each other. That's really what the Soul Film Festival was born out of, and that's something that we want to continue this year and for many years to come.
Wonderful. Anthony and Nathan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, it's back to the theatre now for Back to the Future, one of the most beloved movies in cinema history, which saw the DeLorean-hurtling Marty McFly back to 1955, is now hoverboarding its way back onto the stage, this time in London's West End. The wait, which may feel like decades, is finally over for the musical as the cast and crew get ready to raise the curtain this evening. Carolyn Sim has been to the Adelphi Theatre ahead of opening night.
When Doc Brown's DeLorean hit 88 miles per hour, cinema audiences were thrilled watching Marty McFly travel back to 1955. Back to the Future was the biggest grossing film of 1985. And now the iconic four-wheel time machine is back, this time in front of a brand new audience on a West End stage.
What can we expect?
Something huge. I've never been involved in such a technical show before. It's massive.
How does the car travel to the future? You're not going to tell me, are you?
It moves. It has lights. I've never seen anything like it before. Like, I really mean that. Like, learning the technical aspects of the show was something that I had to really get to grips with.
Go, Johnny, go, go! The show's producers stay true to the movie, telling the story of Marty, who has to make sure the younger version of his parents fall in love or he'll cease to exist. They used the original movie soundtrack with songs we'll know.
A man should be strong, a man should be true.
And some brand new.
Handsome, but he's gotta come through.
Incredibly, the team behind the films came together for the musical. Alan Silvestri wrote the original score and Glenn Ballard wrote The Power of Love.
All of us collectively felt like Back to the Future could be a stage musical. The sets, the actors, the band, the music, the story, when it all converges, it's a kind of a transcendent moment for me.
It is a work, an opus, if you will, to use a fancy word for it. They're actually going to feel it blocks away, apparently, because the building starts doing this once the show starts.
We just always wanted to make this as fun and as exciting for everyone in the room, like you were watching it for the first time again. And I think that's what we do. I know that's what we do.
This is yet another musical whose opening had to be delayed because of the pandemic. It's good to be back, and here's to the future. Carolyn Sim, ITV News.
Getting back to the future, in the last hour it's been announced that the Royal Albert Hall will host the world premiere of the next Bond film, No Time to Die, next month. The film will be the final instalment featuring Daniel Craig, who will be joined on the red carpet by villain Rami Malek and Léa Seydoux. The film was originally due to be released in April 2020, but was delayed because, you know the line, because of the pandemic. Sport now. And the London Lions have already had a record-breaking season and are showing no signs of slowing down anytime soon. They won the Women's British Basketball League playoff final in May for the first time in the club's history. That's silverware adding to their win in the WBBL trophy earlier in the year. Now they're preparing for the Euro Cup qualifiers next month, the first team in the league to ever make this stage of the competition. Anton Allen has been to meet them.
Last season, the London Lions dominated women's basketball.
The London Lions are the trophy champions for 2021.
By winning 2 domestic titles.
WBBL playoff champions, the London Lions.
This season, they are training to make history by becoming the first WBL team to play in the Euro Cup.
Making history is always a cool thing. To be the first people to do anything is always an honor and a privilege, so I hope that we do everybody proud and we make ourselves proud as well.
The team will enter the Euro Cup women qualifiers, making them only the second British team ever to reach this landmark achievement. 17-year-old academy player Nicole is looking forward to taking on the best players in Europe.
That have been at places that I want to be at, have done things that I want to do. So I think it's an amazing opportunity for us.
Point guard Kennedy has played basketball around the world. Her career highlight thus far was helping the London Lions win the WBBL trophy. She hopes the team's success and her own will inspire the next generation to pick up a basketball.
People want to be able to see things that they want to be. So I think for young girls to be able to see that older women and older girls are doing something that they could one day be doing, it's always good to kind of see that and to be able to emulate that.
The team's success comes from mixing international talent with homegrown London stars.
It's really showing that we can build something in this country and make it just as great as other organisations and other sports in other countries.
Coach Clark believes their Euro Cup game shows young girls that it is possible to play at the highest level of this sport.
That's the excitement factor. That's why Joanna Leadham and Azania Stewart, who are 2012 Olympians, wanted to come and play here in London, because they want to help us do something that's going to put some real foundations in, so that London Lions are going to be here for a long time.
From the 20th to the 23rd of September, London Lions will go head-to-head with Spa Gran Canaria, with the winning team going on to compete in the Euro Cup regular season. Antoine Allen, ITV News.
And Chelsea forward Christian Pulisic will miss Sunday's clash with Arsenal after testing positive for COVID-19. The US international started and scored in last weekend's opening game of the season. Manager Thomas Tuchel said he expects a tight and tough game, but his squad will push for the best possible outcome. On to the weather now, and I'm sorry to say that the rain might be coming back this weekend. Here's Aisling Creevy.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV London weekend weather.
Hello there and a very good evening to everyone at home. Well, as we head through the weekend, we are going to get quite a lot of rain around. Now, through tomorrow, there's going to be outbreaks of rain, the potential as well for some thunderstorms, and there is a Met Office yellow warning out for this. Through Sunday, though, it will start to dry up, although still some showers around, and then a very quick change in the weather as we head through Monday. It's going to be a little bit warmer next week, but it's also going to be dry and more settled, perhaps though at times with a little bit of cloud around. So over the next few hours, the cloud's still thick enough out there just to give the odd spot of rain, but for most of us through tonight, it's going to be dry, but a little breezier by the early hours of the morning. Now, it's going to be a very mild and muggy night, temperatures holding up at around 16, possibly 17 degrees Celsius, so it could be quite an uncomfortable night's sleep. Through tomorrow, though, the weather will very quickly start to deteriorate, so increasingly breezy. We'll have some showery outbreaks of rain spreading in from the west, so a damp afternoon for everybody. The risk of some thunderstorms as well. Some potentially very heavy rainfall. If you are out and about on the roads, you could get caught out if you are in the car, so do take care. But temperatures around 22 degrees Celsius, but it's going to be very warm and very humid underneath the cloud and the rain. Now, from Saturday into Sunday, the heaviest of that rain will eventually push away to the east. Then we have another very weak weather front working its way in through Sunday. So during Sunday, you can expect to see sunny spells, but a scattering of showers around as well. As we head into Monday, though, the weather is going to settle down. Temperatures are going to come up, highs of around 23 degrees Celsius and staying fine and settled through the middle of the week. Bye-bye.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV London weekend weather.
And finally, his works sit in the homes of Elton John, the Duchess of Kent, and in collections around the world. So Peter Layton has every reason to be proud of his 45 years as a glassblower. In fact, at the age of 84, he is the UK's oldest glassblower. He's now celebrating his career, which even he admits has been an unlikely one. He came here at the age of 2 when his family fled the Nazis. He's been speaking to Amani Ibrahimi.
From a range of colours and designs, this is the world of the UK's oldest glassblower.
It's a great medium to work in. It's just the most magical and versatile of materials. There was a lady came in here and she was practically in tears. She said, "I'm having an emotional moment because it's so beautiful." You know, that's the kind of reaction we love. You know, I love anyway, when people, their jaws drop. My God, I didn't know you could do this with glass.
Peter first got into glassmaking in the mid-60s. He then went on to launch London Glassblowing, which opened 45 years ago. Now he's showcasing some of his best work in an exhibition.
I'm actually very pleased with it.
Yeah, you should be.
The outcome, you know.
And was it hard to make because of the shape?
Hard to make, very hard to make. So this was a huge piece of which I've chopped off the sides.
84-year-old Peter's life wasn't always filled with glass. When he was just 2 years old, he was forced to flee from the Nazis in Prague.
Well, we were refugees from the Nazis. We got here. I was told it was the last train out of Prague. I was born in Prague. My parents were Viennese. They happened to be working, and my dad happened to be working for a glass factory. So, of course, when I found my way to glass, he was tickled.
As perfect as they look, a lot of hard work goes on behind the scenes. So obviously I had to try it for myself.
If you turn it, if you stop turning, it'll drip off. So keep turning. Come over here, rest it on these wheels. Push forward, just so it goes just inside, okay? That's it. Wow, you're natural. Wooden block.
Get that out, yep.
So I'm being your left hand at the moment.
Yep.
Okay, again. Okay, so there you can see your colours swirled around. There it is, ta-da!
Wow, it looks so good. I'm so proud.
Well, my work might not make it to the homes of Elton John or the Duchess of Kent like Peter's, but it definitely makes you appreciate glass art. Amani Ibrahimi, ITV News.
Nice work, Amani and Peter. That's it for now. We're back with the late update at 10 to 11. Coming up, Lucrezia with the ITV Evening News. But from me and the rest of the London team, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.